Alright guys, we're going to be taking a look at the Retribution Paladin today. This is by far my favorite melee class that I've seen in Alpha, and I'm super excited to mess with it some more. I hope you guys enjoy. First up, let's look at some of the class ability changes. We've seen a few changes here. No more Exorcism. Exorcism is gone. Now we have Blade of Justice. It strikes an enemy with the Blade of Justice, dealing physical damage and generating 2 holy power. This is on an almost 12-second cooldown, but it does have a 12-yard range. At first, I really didn't like this ability, but I've used it a little bit. I've gotten used to it. It's actually pretty cool. Blessing of Freedom. The Blessing, these two are pretty much the same. Crusader Flurry is actually a talent. Crusader Strike is working essentially the same as it used to, and we'll go over that talent here in a minute. Then we have Divine Steed. This is your new gap closer. This one is really cool. This is one of the coolest movement speed increases in the game right now. It summons your Holy Charger to ride for 4 seconds, increasing movement speed by 100%, usable while indoors or in combat. I'll let you guys see this one. This one's really awesome. So if you're running, pop that. Literally just looks like your Paladin mount, and you just you just mount up and ride this for 4 seconds. It's really easy, really neat. Divine Storm is the same. Execution Sentence is different. This one is also a talent, but we'll look at this one because this will be probably your go-to single target ability. It falls. It's a dot, just the same, but it lasts for 10 seconds and it has a 10-second cooldown. So essentially, you're going to have it up the entire time. Originally, in the first alpha build, it was off the global cooldown, but now it's back on it. Or at least it was. So we'll check that out. We'll play with that a little bit. It being off the global cooldown made a little sense to keep it up the entire time, but you could always just glyph it in with Crusader Strike or Crusader Flurry, and you would never have to mess with it. So I can understand them not wanting it off the global cooldown, but it kind of gets a little in the way on the global cooldown, but we'll play with it and we'll make it work. All right, so the greater blessings are completely different now. So you have 3 buffs, which the same ones that you had for during Wrath of Lich King, Kata, and then I don't know, they all changed. But Greater Blessing of Kings, totally different. Place the blessing on an ally that grants them an absorption shield. It absorbs X amount of damage and will be refreshed to full strength every 6 seconds, even if it is fully consumed. And then you can put all 3 of these blessings on people. So this one is an absorption shield thing. So you press that, and you see that, and then if you watch this right up here, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0, and then it'll just refresh back to the top. So just continually doing that. Blessing of Might is kind of like how it used to be. It essentially just places a blessing on an ally that causes their attacks to have a 10% chance to deal 30% additional holy damage. Again, it's not an attack power buff like it used to, but this is more your DPS buff that you're looking for. So DPS are going to want this one for sure. This one is obviously going to help everyone. And then the Blessing of Wisdom, we have it back, and it is going to affect mana again. Place the blessing on an ally that causes them to gain 1% of their maximum mana and health every 15 seconds. So again, a pretty basic. You have an absorption shield buff, DPS buff, and a mana regen buff. Kind of like how it used to be a little bit, but they are completely different from how they are in live right now. Guiding Light, this is actually your teleport to your class hall, which for some reason Paladins get immediately, unlike other classes. Hammer of Justice is the same, it's just a stun. Hand of Hindrance places a hand on an enemy target, reducing movement speed by 70% for 10 seconds. Alright, probably not a... We're not going to use that too much in PvE, but PvP and out in the world and maybe in challenge modes, you'll use that. Hand of Light, this one's really cool. This is kind of your new heal that you're going to be using. Places a hand on an enemy target, healing you for 3% each time the target takes damage, up to once per second. If the target dies with this hand active, you will heal for 40%, last 10 seconds. So basically, when you're out questing, this is going to be super helpful, just bonus heal without having to really spam flashlight too often. And this will be helpful in raids and stuff if you need a little top off. Alright, so your judgment's going to be acting completely differently. Judge an enemy dealing holy damage and causing the target to take 30% increased damage from your holy power generators and consumers for 6 seconds. So you're going to get little DPS burst windows. And this, again, it's very different than holy pallies, our rep pallies are right now in live. But it's actually pretty cool. Like, there's some neat tricks you're going to be able to pull with this. Lay on Hands is doing the same thing. Rebuke is still your interrupt. Repentance. Seal of Light is a talent. We'll go over that later. Shield of Vengeance says it's a talent, but it's not as of right now. So we'll go ahead and read this one. It's not a talent, but it says it is. Creates a barrier of holy light that absorbs X amount of damage for 15 seconds. When the barrier is consumed, all damage absorbed is dealt back to your current melee target as holy damage. So as of right now, again, if you see it says talent, I literally was not aware of that. It is not a talent. You're going to see the talents here in just a second, and it's not in there. So it may be a talent eventually, or they'll just take away that little thing that says talent. But that's something that we're going to have to play with. It's on a 1 minute cooldown, so that actually may be something that's probably going to be something good to use to do some extra damage in raids and dungeons and whatnot. Then Templar's Verdict is just your straight up consumer, just like it always has been. Costs 3 holy power, does a bunch of damage, all good. All right, then we have Conviction. It just makes your Crusader Strike and Blade of Justice, which are your two main builders. It gives them a 20% chance to cause your next holy power spender to cost 1 less holy power. Then Heart of the Crusader increases your movement speed by 20% and doesn't stack with other stuff, kind of like we've had that in the past. Your new Masteries causes your Crusader Strike, Blade of Justice, Divine Storm, Tiller's Verdict to deal X amount additional holy damage as Mastery goes up. So Masteries seems like it's going to be pretty important because it makes all your main attacks do way more damage. Retribution, which is, you guys are going to laugh at this, hopefully. When any party or raid member within 40 yards dies, you gain 100% increased damage for 10 seconds. So there's that. I don't see that making it to live because that seems kind of ridiculous, but maybe that's okay. I'll take it. It's sort of like that just increases damage with two-handers. We've seen that before. So we've had a lot of changes to Rep Pally so far. So let's go through some of these talents. All right, first up, Execution Sentence. A hammer slowly falls from the sky, causing X amount of holy damage over 10 seconds, culminating in a final burst. So kind of like it always has for us. Tyrellian's Might flings a blade of holy light to the target location, dealing holy damage instantly and every 2 seconds to enemies within 8 yards for 8 seconds. Reactivating the ability will cause the paladin to charge to the blade, damaging enemies in the area for more holy damage, ending the effect. So this one's kind of interesting. Execution Sentences we've seen before. This one here, I'll show you guys the visual. So you're going to throw your hammer down. And right now there's no visual. It's not working right. But then when you hit the button again, it charges to it. So I don't know how I feel about it, but the reason it doesn't seem to add up in this current talent row simply because we have our single target. This one's kind of a DPS movement one. So I mean, I'm not saying that there's not a need for it. There might be a good useful spot for it, but for big AoE fights, I would assume we're going to go with Consecration. It consecrates the land beneath you, causing holy damage over 8.85 seconds to enemies who enter the area. So there's the consecration that paladins have always had is returning to Ret. It comes down, new visual, pretty cool. So there you go. That's consecration. That will most likely be the AoE thing. Now, again, maybe in a situation where mobs aren't going to be still. Maybe just they're in a group, you hit it and then hit it again really quick just to do a bunch of burst AoE damage. That might be something good. But for single target fights, and we're going to see this a lot throughout the Paladin tree, we have single target and then a couple different types of AoE talents here. So then on the level 30 row, we have the Fires of Justice. It just increases the damage done by Crusader Strike by 25%. That sounds good, and that's a lot of bonus damage, but the Crusader Strike isn't going to do tons of our damage. It's going to do a little bit, but not a whole lot. Crusader Flurry is the one that looks really good as of right now. We'll go back to Execution Sentence for single target. Crusader Flurry, an instant strike that causes physical damage and generates 1 holy power, and it has 3 charges. That's the big one. It has 3 charges. You can see here, there's a little 3 down here. You can use it 3 times to just generate more holy power, which now that we're the only class with holy power is kind of helpful. And then Zeal, again, these two are going to be more single target focused, and then this one's going to be AoE focused. An instant strike that causes physical damage and grants 1 holy power. Grant Zeal, increasing your auto attack speed by 20%, causing Zeal to chain to an additional nearby target per stack. And that replaces Crusader Strike. So you can see with more mobs in the area, it's going to continually cause Zeal to jump to new people, which is going to increase your attack speed. So basically, with the more people there are, you're probably going to want Zeal. Again, we'll have to see where that really fits in and how high that stacks and whatnot as we go on. Then on the level 45 talent row, we have Fist of Justice. Your spells that consume holy power reduce the remaining cooldown of Hammer of Justice by 10 seconds. So basically, that's just giving us more use of our stun. So there's a lot of situations where that could be really cool. Then we have Repentance. It forces an enemy target into meditation, incapacitating the target and dealing up to a maximum of 25% of the target's health and damage over 1 minute. Usable on a bunch of different things. So it's kind of the same crowd control that we've seen in the past, but now there's a damage component to it, so it's a little bit interesting. Blinding Light emits a dazzling light in all directions, blinding enemies within 10 yards, dealing damage and causing them to wander disoriented for 6 seconds. Holy damage will not break this disorienting effect. That's the interesting part, is the holy damage will not break the effect. So physical damage will, but holy won't. I don't know. We'll see how that works out. And again, nothing in this row is going to have a huge impact on rating boss mechanics, but Repentance, obviously, and Fist of Justice, and possibly Blinding Light will have some interesting effects on trash and things like that. Now it starts getting to the fun row, the level 60 talent row. Virtue's Blade increases the damage done by your Blade of Justice by 25%. This is an attack that already deals quite a bit of damage, and it's going to be one of your big attacks that you're going to want to use a lot. So a 25% damage boost to it's actually going to be really helpful. Then we have Blade of Wrath. This one changes the rotation up quite a bit. It still has 12-yard range, but now it has a 6-second cooldown, just about. It strikes an enemy with a Blade of Wrath, dealing X amount of holy damage and generating 1 holy power. So basically, this drops down the damage quite a bit, because as of right now, it does 26,834 damage if you take the Virtue's Blade talent, but now it's only going to do a little over 8,000 damage, but it has almost half the cooldown. Let's see, yep, about half the cooldown. So you're going to have a little bit more use of it to generate a little extra holy power, but there's really not going to be a huge need if you take Crusader Flurry for single target. Because if it's an AoE based fight, you're going to want Divine Hammer. Divine Hammers spin around the Paladin, damaging enemies within 8 yards for X amount of holy damage instantly and every 2 seconds for 8 seconds. Generates 1 holy power. So that's going to replace your Blade of Justice, and you can see it's a temp visual. It's kind of like the old Divine Storm visual. So when you use it, it's going to do it, and then it's going to do it again, and then again. So it's kind of a pulse AoE thing. So in an AoE situation, you're obviously going to take this talent. Again, a couple single target and AoE talent. So I think Virtue's Blade in this tier is going to be the go-to single target ability. Blade of Wrath may be good for questing and for people getting used to having a long cooldown and used to some of this rotation that we have, but I think Virtue's Blade in the long run is going to be a much better talent. Then the level 75 talents are actually a little interesting, and we're going to see how the math works out for these. So Judgment of the Bold increases the damage bonus effect of your judgment by 10%. That one, I would assume in the long run, this one is going to be the one you're going to want to take for single target. Then the Might of Virtue, your judgment ability generates 1 holy power. These two really can't be compared at all. Judgments of the Bold, that's way better, because it's not increasing the damage of your judgment by 10%. Remember, we talked about these little windows we have where Judgment's going to make us do 30% extra damage? Well, with this talent, it's going to do 40% extra damage. Everything's going to do 40% extra damage for a few seconds. So it's making those windows hit a lot harder, and we'll go over the rotation here in just a minute. So, yeah, Judgments of the Bold, way better than the Might of Virtue. We really don't need the extra holy power as long as we're taking Crusader's Flurry. So we'll see in the long run if they maybe change it to make those a little more competitive, or if there's maybe a set bonus that makes those more competitive. We'll see. Mass Judgment's super interesting because this is the AoE talent, but it could have good effects for single target fights. We'll see. Your Judgment spell affects all enemies within 8 yards of the target and increases the duration by 100%. So what that means, essentially, is that Judgment's now going to be an AoE attack. It's going to hit everything, which is pretty cool. And what it's going to do, instead of making your holy power spenders and generators deal 30% extra damage without Virtue's Blade, obviously, so we'll go to Mass Judgment. Instead of them doing 30% extra damage for 6 seconds, they're going to do 30% extra damage to everything within, I think it's 8 yards. Let's see, yeah, 8 yards. So 30% extra damage to everything within 8 yards for 12 seconds. So it's going to double that time. So what that's going to mean, if you look, it has 11.8 second cooldown, Judgment does, and it's going to make this effect last for 12 seconds. So that means for an AoE situation, you're going to be doing massive amounts of damage because Divine Storm as of right now already hits really hard. Like, it hits really hard. So Ret Paladins could be crazy AoE eaters this X pack. Now here's the thing we need to talk about. Would we rather have 10% bonus damage for 6 seconds or 30% bonus damage that we can keep up the entire time in a single target fight? I don't know the math. This is going to be a math thing. If this was a little higher, if it was a little more than 10%, then this would definitely be the single target ability. And I think Judgments of the Bold will be the single target talent we'll take in the long run, unless they change it up a lot. But Mass Judgment is a pretty interesting choice because you can keep the Judgment bonus effect up 100% of the time. So that's super interesting. Then on to the level 90 talent row, Blaze of Light. A quick and powerful heal, healing a friendly target for X amount replaces Flash of Light. So basically, it's just going to replace your Flash of Light and heal for way more. That's pretty neat, but whatever. Divine Steed, we talked a little bit earlier. That's your gap closer. Without Divine Steed, we really don't have any movement speed increase unless we take Terrellion's Might. So Divine Steed's pretty cool. This one is nice, but it's not as cool. It's not as fun. It's not as fun. With Hand of Light, I really don't see us needing Blaze of Light all that often. Just through questing and stuff on the other Paladin I have, the other Ret one, Hand of Light is more than enough healing, at least out in the world. Rarely have I used Flash of Light. And then Eye for an Eye, it costs 3 Holy Power, instantly counterattack an enemy that strikes you in melee for 12 seconds. Melee attacks made from behind cannot be counterattacked, maximum of 10 counterattacks. I think this one's, I don't know, for a true PvE environment, even though that sounds like, oh, it's going to counterattack, which means more damage, yes, it's going to cost 3 Holy Power. So the math behind it is, okay, so those 3 Holy Power you're not using there, you're going to be using here, that means you're going to miss out on Templar's Verdict. So number 1 isn't going to do as much damage as Templar's Verdict. And then on top of that, how much damage am I losing by not taking Divine Steed? How much damage am I going to lose by not being there an extra few seconds faster? Eye for an Eye, I just don't see a place for it in PvE, but possibly in PvP. Obviously, this could be really cool, and then maybe some other environments it could be really cool. Then the level 100 talent row. Final Verdict increases damage done by Templar's Verdict by 15%. That's super basic, super easy, and really good. That could be really good. Seal of Light is the more interesting choice. It costs 3 Holy Power, draws upon the Paladin's Holy Energy to increase attack speed by 35% and movement speed by 15% last 30 seconds. So this is one you're going to want to keep up the entire time. I don't know if Paladins will want to do that again. We used to have an ability kind of that we wanted to keep up all the time to make us do more damage. I don't know if a lot of Paladins will want to go back to that or just take Final Verdict to make it easier, but again, the math we'll have to see the math. We'll have to see the math at when we go live, when everything's been tuned, which one deals more damage. I'd like for it to be Seal of Light, just to make it a little more complicated and a little more complex, but it may end up being Final Verdict, and that's totally fine. Then Holy Wrath is another 3 Holy Power channeled ability. Fires holy bolts to the target, causing X amount of holy damage and restoring health over 2.21 seconds. Deals 50% additional damage to stunned targets. Again, in the PvE rating environment, I don't see a huge place for it, but we'll see. Again, the math will have to work out on this roll. I would think it's going to come down to the Final Verdict and Seal of Light talents. Alright, so here we go with the actual artifact quest. Warning, there are huge spoilers ahead in this one. If you don't want spoilers, I will put links in the description so you can skip right until we get the artifact weapon, and we're going to go over all the artifact talents and whatnot. So here we go.
What can I do for you?
The search for the High Lord. Somewhere out there, Tyrion is fading away, and the Ashbringer with him. We must not waste another moment. Give the word and we'll set off. We're ready when you are.
Light bless you.
Accept that.
You brave souls have been chosen to strike into the depths of hell itself to rescue High Lord Tyrion. This is your last chance to turn back.
Alright, our last
Ready
chance to turn back.
yourselves, men. The broken shore awaits. We leave on our champion's command.
This one's nice because it actually has voice acting, so I don't have to read everything. We'll see if it has it during the entire segment. This is pretty cool. So we have this huge army of paladins going out.
The demons before us are all that stand between us and the Ashbringer. Regardless of the outcome, our families will know that we fought for the freedom and safety of our world. We move on our champion's command.
There is a Warhorn here that, yeah, it still doesn't work. It hasn't worked the entire time, but if you just attacking this.
Charge!
Such arrogance must be punished.
So there's our mass judgment you saw right there.
Our enemies will fall.
Infernals, crush them!
Champion, we must persevere.
Popping wings.
Scorch the earth behind us. I must finish breaking our nest.
The fiends have Tyrion. We have to act quickly. Champion, I'll signal for our Hippogriff riders to get our fallen to light so... Lord.
All you mortals are so vain, so arrogant. You will suffer for your hubris.
Find seed again.
The sundering of this one
Torturing these guys.
has been taxing, but he will be out.
The light burns in my heart. I will never surrender. That's what Tyrion's saying.
You will suffer for 1,000 lifetimes. Insignificant gnat, I will enjoy breaking you.
We gotta go find the Ashbringer. You must retrieve the Ashbringer. So Tyrion's having a little bit of a hard time right now. So you can see your Templar's Verdict ability is lighting up when... I'll show you again. Maybe I can find it. Conviction. Basically, when it's going to consume 1 less holy power, so when it's only going to cost 2, it looks like it is lighting up right now. And it hasn't in the past, so that is new. See, here's the actual judgment debuff.
Ah, the light's greatest champion has arrived to claim the holy Ashbringer and lay waste to my kin.
They say only the pure of heart can wield the high blade. Come, champion, claim your destiny. Here's a couple dead guys, I guess, that tried as well. There's no model for this part right here.
I've been waiting for you, Paladin.
Balthazar.
Know that I will rip the... Know that I am Balthazar. Know that you are but a pawn in plans beyond your reckoning. Burn everything, my pets. Leave only ash.
So it's lit up right now.
You think this is over? Never again will that damned blade slay my brethren. Has just begun.
Champion, you must come quickly. Tyrion called for you by name. I fear he does not have long for this world. Hurry! We have to get out of here before more demons come. Quickly, the High Lord is just outside the temple.
So we just gotta get out of here now. Oh, where's our friend? I'll wait on him. The RP value. Hey, come on, man. Here we go. Yeah, that Ashbringer looks pretty cool. Come closer. I'm here, bro. You must take up the blade. You must stop the Legion. You must become the Ashbringer. As the last light fades, there it is, folks. Poor Tyrion.
You will be missed, brother. We must go to Light's Hope Chapel at once. High Lord Fordring deserves to be put to rest among the ancient heroes of the light buried there.
Okay. So we'll do this the right way. Since this is what you'll be doing on live, this is probably what you want to see. So we're going back to Dalaran. We got to get to Lighthope's Chapel. Obviously in Alpha right now we have the teleportability to the Light's Hope Chapel, but we get it super early for whatever reason. But you're not going to in the actual game. You're going to have to fly back to Dalaran.
We gave everything for the Ashbringer. You gave everything. Tyrion would be proud to see you wielding that blade.
Need help?
So, these are dark times. I'm glad you're here. We just might have a chance against the Legion with you on our side, but before we march on the Broken Isles, we must put High Lord Tyrion to rest. There is but one place suitable for a paladin of his caliber, Light's Hope Sanctum, a secret bastion of the light hidden beneath the chapel. Paladins the world over are en route now to attend the ceremony. I know Tyrion would want you there most of all.
Go with
The others should be waiting for you in the sanctum beneath Light's Hope Chapel. You should make haste.
Alright, we are. So we're going to go meet up with all the other paladin bros for Tyrion's funeral. And this is actually the new teleport room. It's actually really cool. It just got textured. So you're just going to stand on this little plate and you'll... There we go. Now we're ported there. The portrait room. It's not letting me use my Divine Steed in here, but that's okay. It's when it first came out, this was totally buggy, and it's still a little buggy right now. So we need to take this portal here. So there's, in here, there's the Karazhan portal right now. There's portal to the Dalaran Crater, so where Dalaran used to be in the old world. Portal to Wormrest Temple, then portal to Shat, and portal to Caverns of Time. I have no idea if these will be the ones that are actually in here on live, but they're the ones that are here right now. So you get that free achievement by doing it. And you can fly again in this area. So I'm probably going to skip ahead until we actually get to Light's Hope Chapel. Because it's just going to be me flying in the old world for like a good 5 minutes. Alright, so here we are at Light's Hope Chapel finally. Run up. So we have to go down below Light's Hope Chapel. So here's Light's Hope Chapel we're all familiar with. Then right here on the floor, you're going to click that and this secret passage will open up, which is pretty cool. So this is under construction, so it's not totally finished. Watch this, guys. As you walk past. So we can even RP walk if we want. They're going to bow to you. A lot of times they'll say things like, oh, the Ashbringer, and things like that, so it's actually pretty neat, especially this first time you walk in. There he is, the Ashbringer.
King's honor, friend.
I'm glad you can make it. The Paladins of Azeroth need a leader. With Tyrion's passing, you're the only one that has the report among us to wear the mantle of High Lord. Inscribe your name into the Librum of Ancient Kings, and I will address the masses on your behalf. The Order of the Silver Hand is reborn with you, champion.
Be careful.
Okay, so we're going to go up here. Right. These fine men and women need a leader. Your deeds make you the clear choice to bear that burden. Come, I will address them on your behalf. Alright, come on, bro. Gathered Paladins of Azeroth, you've come to mourn the loss of High Lord Tyrion Fordring. Many of you look to him as an idol, a paragon of what we will strive to be as paladins. May we all take a moment of silence to pay our respect to a truly great soldier, leader, and friend. In the light we are one, brother. Inscribe your name in the Librum of Ancient Kings, and I will address the gathered on your behalf. So we're going to inscribe our name here. We must stand together against the coming darkness. We must stand side by side and cast aside shackles of race and faction. We must unite as one. The Blood Knights stand by you, High Lord. Azeroth will not fall. As do we all. We must fight together, High Lord. On this day, the Order of the Silver Hand is reborn. Together, Sargeras himself shall shudder at our might. So everyone's cheering. People are pretty pumped, it looks like.
Well met.
We've done it, High Lord. The Order of the Silver Hand is reborn. So when we do all this, this is when you should get your teleport thing, and you're going to get the new High Lord title.
Or the Alliance.
You're going to get him as your
Be
first
careful.
follower. Even the most powerful Legion lords fear the Ashbringer, and rightly so, but they are constantly at work fashioning new horrors and fiends in an attempt to counter the High Blade's might. High Lord, we must augment the Ashbringer's power to maintain our edge over the enemy. The altar before you carries with it the combined power of the countless heroes of the light buried in these sacred halls. Place the Ashbringer upon it, and you can imbue the blade with a new strength.
Go with honor, friend.
So now we're going to go over all of the artifact weapon attributes. So the first one you're going to get here, get that, let them all fill in. Wake of Ashes. Call down the Ashbringer at the target location, dealing holy damage and snaring all enemy targets within 8 yards by up to 50% based on distance from the center of the impact, and generates 5 holy power. Demon and undead creatures are stunned for 10 seconds if struck by the Wake of Ashes. So this one's actually pretty cool. We'll look at the actual model real quick. You throw it down, it just drops, and then basically it's just a burst AoE ability. So that's pretty neat. It'll generate 5 holy power when it hits people. Alright, so first up, let's go down this row. Deliverer the Justice. Increase damage of Blade of Justice by 8%. This is your Blade of Justice here. That's already a big hitting attack, so we're going to want that pretty good. For Endless Resolve, Forbearance no longer applies to you, so that should mean that you can use Divine Shield and use Lay on Hands without Forbearance needing a 30-second cooldown. Alright, little helpful thing, kind of easy, whatever. Sharpened Edge increases damage of Crusader Strike by 6%. This should, I don't know because I'm not able to test it yet, but that should also affect Crusader Flurry, and if not, then I'm sure they'll fix it in live. Deflection, damage taken reduced by 3%. Easy, simple, not a big deal, but kind of cool. Echo of the High Lord, when you use Templar's Verdict or Divine Storm, Ashbringer will mimic that action. So basically, anytime you use your Holy Power Spenders, Templar's Verdict, or your AoE one, Divine Storm, it's just going to mimic it, so that's pretty good. Unbreakable Will. When disabled in combat for more than 2 seconds, Ashbringer will break you free. This can only occur once every 2 minutes. Yeah, cool. I'm good with that. That's going to mean more damage on the boss. Wrath of the Ashbringer. Increases the duration of Avenging Wrath by 3.1 seconds, and obviously that'll stack 3 times. So that's just going to make Avenging Wrath last a whole lot longer. So probably another 10 seconds at the end of the day. So it's going to last for probably 30 seconds instead of just 20. And that's 50% increased damage for 30 seconds. That's pretty big. Increases the healing of Flash of Light by 15%. That's the Embrace of Light. So again, some of these are huge damage boosters, and some of these are like that. They just make things a little bit easier, a little bit more effective. Divine Tempest. Ashbringer causes your Divine Storm to quickly move 20 yards in front of you, dealing damage to all enemies within its path. Damage of Divine Storm also increased by 20%. So not only is it just going to make your Divine Storm do flat out more damage, it's going to make more of a AoE cone effect in front of you. So it's going to be more AoE talent, where this one's probably going to be Echo of the High Lord, probably going to be single target and AoE. That's going to increase both of those. So this may be a good first one to go to, since it will increase both in both directions, but we'll see. Then Healing Storm. Divine Storm now also heals allies within its radius for X amount when it deals damage. So basically, Divine Storm now heals as it does damage. I believe it's done that in the past. High Lord's Judgment increases the damage of Judgment by 15%. Now keep in mind, this is not the damage bonus of Judgment, so this isn't the effect that it gives you, which makes all your other attacks do more damage. This is simply the damage of your Judgment by 15%. Might of the Templar increases the damage of Templar's Verdict by 4%. Again, this is your single target closer. That's pretty good, just flat out more damage. Righteous Blade increases the damage of Divine Storm by 5%. Essentially the same thing, just your AoE one. So Protector of the Ashen Blade reduces the cooldown of Hand of Protection by 10 seconds. So now it should be Blessing of Protection, obviously, which is doing essentially the same thing it always has. Now it's going to be a little bit of a shorter cooldown. Obviously, it'll be 30 seconds once you get all 3 stacks of that in, so it'll still be 4.5 minutes instead of 5, it looks like. Then Blades of Light. Blade of Justice now causes a Blade of Light to strike the target for an additional 1 to 3 times. So that's your Blade of Justice here. Again, this is another hard-hitting Holy Power builder, so now it's just going to make that proc to do more damage. So all 3 of these big ones are pretty good. I would assume Echo of the High Lord is probably the first one you're going to want to try and get at live, because it's going to have single target and AoE components, and then depending on what the first raid looks like, if there's a bunch of AoE fights, Divine Tempest will probably be the next one, but Blades of Light is actually going to be really good as well for single target. So let's look at these appearances real quick. So here's just the standard Ashbringer, and we have that one. That one looks really cool. That one's super alliance-y, so if you're on the alliance side, I like that one a lot. That one, again, I don't know if the Ashbringer can actually look bad, but that one's really good as well. And then this is the green one. And this is the empowered version, so that's the base empowered version you're going to get. So you're going to have this one, and then it should increase to that. And then there's just a red version, the blue version, and the green one. This is Burning Reprisal. So this is the fire one. So that's the base fire one. There's the blue fire, green fire, then the yellow one. And Fallen Hope. There's kind of a purple one, and then a blue version, green, kind of a cyan type one. That one actually looks pretty cool. And I do not know how to unlock these yet. There's been no specific information in alpha about how to unlock these different ones, and I would assume at one point when you mouse over it, it'll say how to unlock it and what to do and whatnot like that. So now let's go check out, here we'll
Greetings.
finish this quest.
Light bless you.
Let's go check out the actual rotation for this, because it's going to be a little interesting, a little different than what you're used to. This one, yeah, you cannot mount up in this Paladin hall. Some of the other ones you can mount up in. Alright, so this is the damage training dummy. So, the big thing here is, and we're going to forget Wake of Ashes for a little bit, even though that will be useful in single target, because it will be a holy power generator. But for the most part, the idea is we're going to want to try and build up... Oh, must be very good. Let's see, what level is this? This may be too high of a level for us to do. So the idea is we're probably going to want to build up to about 4 holy power, then use Judgment, and then Templar's Verdict, Blade of Justice, and then another Templar's Verdict. And actually, let me change these talents out for a strictly single target rotation. Let me get out of combat. So we're going to take Execution Sentence, Crusader Flurry, whatever here, Virtuous Blade, Judgment of the Bold, Divine Steed, or whatever you want to there, and then Final Verdict for a single target rotation for right now. So again, let's build up. We'll try using that, but I don't... Yeah, you're probably not going to want to open with Blade of Justice, because you're going to want to be sure it's off cooldown when you go into your Judgment. It's going to do more damage, so let's let this Holy Power fade out. We'll just put that out there. Alright, so we're going to open up with Crusader Flurry. I'm going to stack it 3 times. Hopefully it doesn't miss like that. Alright, so we got 3, and then 1 more, so that's 4. You should be able to do that pretty quickly. Then you're going to Judgment, Templar's Verdict, Blade of Justice, and then another Templar's Verdict, and then Judgment's fading out. And then you're going to build back up over time, and then Judgment, Templar's Verdict, Blade of Justice, one more, and then Templar's Verdict again. And you're going to do that during these little windows here. And you're not going to really want to spend too much of your holy power outside of those windows. Now the other option, single target, is going to be probably the easier option, is doing Mass Judgment, because then you can have it up the entire time. So then you can just Judgment and then do whatever the heck you want, and just as long as you're using Judgment on cooldown, it's not going to matter. And as of right now, this seems to do more damage, but I would assume in live they're going to fix it so it doesn't. The other things to talk about are going to be Shield of Vengeance. This is just an absorb, but when it's done absorbing, it's going to release all that damage back onto your target, and this is on a 1-minute cooldown, so you're also going to want to use this on cooldown most likely. And Execution Sentence, you're going to keep that up. It has a 10-second cooldown, but it lasts for 10 seconds. So you're going to want to keep that up pretty much at all times, and then you can use that to build up holy power if you would like. Which most likely on a single target encounter, let's start over one more time. On a single target encounter, let's go back to our Judgment of the Bold. You're going to want to use Wake of Ashes, because that's going to generate 5 holy power. So you're going to use Wake of Ashes, Judgment, then Templar's Verdict, and then Blade of Justice, then Templar's Verdict again. So instead of having to sit there the first few seconds and stacking your Crusader Flurry, you're just not going to mess with that. So when the fight opens, you're going to obviously be Avenging Wrath and have your pre-pot and all that going. With Wake of Ashes, and probably Execution Sentence as you're running to the boss. So as you Divine Seed and you're running in, probably use Execution Sentence, as long as it doesn't miss like that, because this training dummy is probably level 110. So it's going to have a hard time in here. But that's the basic rotation for this guy. So now let's look at an AoE kind of rotation. So we're going to change up a bunch of these talents. Let me make sure I'm not missing anything. I think we got it all. So basically now, Zeal, we're just going to use that on cooldown as best we can, because it's just going to stack to other targets if we had an AoE rotation. Judgment's now also an AoE attack, and this is going to stay up the entire time as long as you use it on cooldown. And then Divine Hammer, it's just like a pulsing AoE thing. And then instead of Templar's Verdict, we're going to want to use Divine Storm. And then Wake of Ashes is also still an AoE attack, which is going to generate holy power. So there's a lot of cool attacks for AoE and single targets, but it's going to make you change out your talents. So in some fights where it's like, maybe like a Shadow Lord Iskar type fight where there's components of both, you're going to want to play with it. Probably Mass Judgment will be useful. Maybe stick with the Virtue's Blade, but maybe you want to try Zeal, or maybe you want to try Consecration instead of Execution Sentence. Those are things that the map will just have to work out in the end, but those are kind of the basic rotations for single target and AoE, and I'm sure they'll be fine-tuned a little bit more before we go into live. Thanks, guys! Thank you guys so much for watching my video. Please like and subscribe for more future content.